As you bring up football news, Field, would you say that for training camp, the Browns have the number one storyline with this quarterback competition? It's at least top 5, right?
It's not even close. It's number one.
Wow.
Like, it's not even close. Now, listen, there are other storylines that will emerge, right? Whoever the defending champion is, we're going to follow their camp closely. Will they find a way to repeat? Whoever is the team that did the most during the offseason, can they make a big leap? Travis Hunter will be followed closely. How many reps is he getting on offense versus how many is he getting on defense? Aaron Rodgers, because he's Aaron Rodgers, will be followed closely. All of those things are obvious.
Yeah.
But the Browns and their quarterback competition will be the thing that I can guarantee you will cover the most across ESPN platforms, not be like that. And that's for all shows, all networks, all companies, right? Yeah. There's a lot of heat. There's a lot of interest in that storyline specifically. And I don't think, maybe I'll rue these words, I don't think it's going to be decided quickly either, right? I don't think by August 5th, it's going to be, hey, Joe Flacco's our week 1 starter, right? It probably percolates for the entirety of training camp. And maybe the bigger takeaway from the Browns quarterback competition is that whoever is the week 1 starting quarterback, it's almost like the countdown starts the minute week 1 begins until the next player takes over. It seems like there's a real chance the Browns, like if the over-under was set at 2.5 quarterbacks starting for the Browns this year, I think you and I are aligned, probably taking the over there.
So the Cleveland Browns are going to be the talk of training camp, and Field Yates recently joined the ESPN Cleveland show to talk all about it and what some of his expectations are. Right there, he talked about how outside of Rodgers, Travis Hunter, and maybe the Eagles, the Browns are the team to follow. And as I've been talking about over the past month or so, the Browns starting quarterback battle is one that is going to go on, maybe all the way to the end of the preseason. A decision is not close to being made, and Shedeur Sanders is the one bringing all this media attention to Cleveland. It was crazy watching him fall to the 5th round when he really had first-round talent. Obviously, we saw a lot of the Browns quarterbacks getting reps at minicamp, and people, funny enough, were making stats from all the days, which Shedeur, of course, dominated. But yeah, it's going to be fun to watch everything unfold over the next few months, and Field Yates had more to say about the Browns camps. Here's what he said.
Yeah, Dillon Gabriel got 83. He got way more reps than anybody. So what's your sense on the national side of everything that kind of has happened up until this point going into camp?
So I think that I'm not surprised that Dillon ends up with the most reps for this reason. Joe Flacco, at some point you go, like the difference between like your 1,000th and your 1,001st practice, and I don't know exactly how many practices Joe has had, but it's more than 1,000, obviously, right?
Yeah.
It's diminishing returns, even if it's in a not an entirely new system, but obviously being back with the Browns this year after previously spending a couple of years ago for the second half of the season in Cleveland. So it's like, hey, you know what? There's a lot of time for me in August when the pads are actually on to develop more rapport with guys than I currently have. And Dillon, regardless of who you think ends up having a better career, one player was taken, 97th overall?
Late third round. Yeah, Dillon was late third.
154th. So, talking about nearly 2 full rounds apart. And if the Browns, nothing that has happened over the past, call it 2 months or a little under 2 months, has totally changed the calculus of how these two players stack up, right? Like you can have a little bit of a lead and you can gather some momentum, but still ultimately I believe that Dillon Gabriel is the quarterback the Browns think has the better chance of their 2 rookies to eventually become either a part-time starter or like an excellent number 2 quarterback. I would be surprised if he's a full-time starter just because there's not a lot of third-round picks that become full-time starters and have long, successful careers. That being said, so I'm not shocked that he has gotten more reps than the other quarterbacks up to this point.
So Yates seems to be high on Dillon Gabriel, and he thinks the Browns view him as the young QB with the biggest potential on the roster, and he really emphasized the fact that Dillon and Shedeur were drafted 2 rounds apart, and while yes, his numbers have looked better in the camps, one went against the first team and one went against the second, but again, in training camp, I think both guys will get reps, and we will start to get a better picture, a better idea of which guy is more NFL ready and which guy is picking up the offense faster and more naturally naturally, because as I've said a million times, from a size and frame standpoint, Sanders has more upside. Next up, Yates talked more about Sanders and what he thinks the Browns should do early in the season in terms of the quarterbacks, and here's what he said.
What's your take on Shedeur through minicamp? Because just being there and everything you hear from the building is he made a lot of strides. And I would say being out there, you could really see how he developed from rookie minicamp to the end. And then you hear things, hey, he's great in the building. He's really picking it up. You were really locked into the draft process, especially around Shedeur. Obviously, did the pod with Mel. Mel was a big fan, had him ranked highly. So how do you think that kind of transition for him from that?
Yeah, so I'd say that, Shedeur, like the good thing about these past couple of months is that you don't want a rookie that after the first couple of months is showing like negative signs that suggest he just can't hang entirely. And it's not a surprise to me that Shedeur's accuracy, ball placement, timing, touch on throws was all really good, right? He was an excellent pocket passer in college football. I go back to this. It's not the only stat that matters, but if you go back to last season and you filter out snaps in which a quarterback was not blitzed, Shedeur Sanders was the only one to complete at least 80% of his passes. Like, I don't care if you're throwing the ball a yard or, 100 yards. Obviously, the further down the field, the more difficult, but like 80% is 80%, right? So, and over the past 2 months, how many times was Shedeur Sanders hit? The answer is none, right? So to me, it's going to be in training camp. I think that for either of these rookies to start week one, and I know that you're on record, you think it's going to be one of those two. My feeling is that in order for a rookie to start week one, that player is going to have to be head and shoulders, unequivocally way better than the other three. And part of that is, I think, maybe a little bit of a respect and a deference to Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. Part of it is also, if you start a rookie when you've got three other options in the cradle, if that player struggles in week one, ESPN Cleveland, Monday morning, our guys are going to be hammering saying, hey, it's time for somebody else, right? Whereas if you start Joe Flacco and by the way, if you yank a rookie after, 1 or 2 starts or whatever, it can have real harm. It can create real harm in that player's career. Whereas if it's a veteran, it's Joe Flacco, like if he starts 3-4 games and then, hey, it's time to go try Kenny Pickett or one of the rookies, it's like, you signed a 41-year-old, whatever, 40-year-old Joe, and that's kind of what you expected to get out of this player, right? A handful of games here or there. He's going to be a pro as that number 2, 3, or 4 quarterback. Maybe you even could trade him if things go really sour, and you move on.
I think Yates was spot on with everything he said right there. If I were to bet my money, I would say that Joe Flacco starts week one, and you never want to rush a rookie out onto the field and throw the guy into the fire early, especially when you don't have to. Andrew Berry and the Browns front office brought in Flacco to be that security blanket, and he obviously already knows the Stefanski system and offense, so I think you put Flacco out there for a few weeks. Maybe he shocks everyone and does what he did the last time he played for us and wins a few games, but if he doesn't, I cannot wait to see who the Browns roll with second, and let me know who you guys think it should be in the comments below. Should it be Kenny Pickett? Should it be Shedeur Sanders? Should it be Dillon Gabriel? I don't think there's any wrong answer as of right now. Here's what else Field Yates had to say during his time on the ESPN Cleveland show.
I just think the reality is that, now, if you can get something of value for Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco, and you don't think one of those two guys is going to be your starter, then you probably that solves the issue for you pretty quickly. I could be wrong here, but assuming things go okay during the preseason, as in like neither of the rookies comes in and gets absolutely just looks terrible in multiple preseason exposures, like if you don't want to keep that player on the 53-man roster, like I just don't think they're getting through waivers. I mean, I would be very surprised if Dillon Gabriel gets through waivers. He's a 3rd-round pick, right? Like Shedeur, there's different circumstances. There just are. We all know what, like part of, there are pros to being the son of Deion Sanders, but clearly there are factors. That's why he went in the 5th. It's one of the reasons. Everything else, the specter outside football, not specifically Deion Sanders, but the specter outside of football that Shedeur Sanders, has to live with. Like that's part of the contributing factors here. The NFL told us that on April 24th through 26th in Green Bay, Wisconsin, right? So maybe Shedeur does get through waivers, but I still think this team ends up carrying 4 quarterbacks by the time we get to the end of the training camp. Cut down, whatever day that is, August 31st or something.
It's definitely an interesting time in Cleveland right now. I know we are all going to continue to follow this situation pretty closely, especially the Shedeur Sanders part of it, over the next few months. But that's really all I have to say for this one. Some really good stuff from Field Yates. I know we are kind of at the time of year where there is not that much going on, but it's been a while since I've talked about Shedeur, so I wanted to make this one, and I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe, because your support truly does mean the world. And also let me know what you would like to see next, and until then, I will see you all later.